All right, today I'm going to talk a little bit about how I typically light stuff. Um, I've been doing this for a while, over 10 years as a event designer and renderer, but not necessarily a lighting designer or lighting specialist. However, I've done plenty of lighting in the real world as well as doing rendering, so I know how most of it works. However, everyone kind of does stuff differently and has their own preferences as well. So um, you could do things completely different than what I'm about to show you, and I'm sure there's plenty of other ways to do everything. But this is just kind of to show you how I would typically do, or how I do typically set up lighting a lot, as far as just kind of getting things to look the way that I want them to look, maybe faster, and that sort of thing. So I'll start off kind of here with this set. It's kind of got a good amount of color to it already, just with the graphics that are involved. And then I added a bunch of lights here to kind of highlight sort of the scenery as well as the room. And so I'll kind of turn them on one by one to show you examples of what it looks like and kind of why I did it the way I did it. So if I kind of take a further out view of this room here, we have, again, the graphics are kind of lit up really well, and then the room is lit up pretty good too. But in a lot of cases, I don't really want to bring too much focus to the room, so I'm typically going to lower the lighting in the room, so I'll just turn that down a bit. And from here now I just have the stage wash, and as you can see here, if I click on excuse me, one of these lights up here, it'll select all of them that I have. These are a bunch of ellipsoidal lights shining down here, and if I turn that all the way down, you'll notice that there's just the graphics here. So I'll typically do, for the stage wash, I'll typically set, if it's, I'm typically trying to get like a 45-degree angle or so, if I can, on the stage. So I think this is about 20 feet high or so. These lights are probably hanging at about 18 feet or 19 feet high. And they're about, let's say, it looks like about 12 feet away from the front of the stage here, the downstage. So obviously you're never going to get the same spot all the time. And sometimes you might have to put your lights way over here. The best kind of scenario is to get the stage wash to be about 45 degrees. That's better for visibility with the audience, and then it's also better for being able to light everyone. What I'll typically do is set the amount of lights to be about the width of the stage, or potentially a little bit less wide than the stage. So in this scenario, the stage is 30 feet wide here, and my truss is about 50 feet wide, and my lights in this case are about 30 feet wide. I might in some cases make them more like 25 feet or so, so that it doesn't spill too much onto the right and left sides of kind of the floor there. But that usually doesn't make too much of a difference because typically the audience can't see that anyways. So from here, I'm going to just add a little bit of light here, and then I'm going to play around with the cone angle a little bit. And so you'll see here what I mean when these two lights on the outside kind of can bleed a little bit too much into the side. And if you have some screens or something that's over here, then that can bleed over there. So occasionally I'll, again, make these less wide than this is right now. But it's just an example here. And from here, I'm just going to kind of rotate the whole group a little bit depending on what I need. I'll often try to get it up here to where there's it's not too much light spilling onto the front of the stage in case you have something there. And you also typically don't want to like highlight whatever's in front of the stage, probably usually just some skirting or something. So I'll probably, in a lot of cases, try to get it to not highlight this, and then adjust the intensity of it so that it just barely, so that it definitely makes the audience bright, but it's not washing them out in any way. And you can make this even more subtle if you adjust the just color of the lights. A lot of times too, I'll often adjust the color. Let's say you have some gels on your lights or they're LED lights. You can adjust that just a little bit here. A lot of times I go with the cooler setting, but it always depends on what the rest of the scenery looks like, what type of gel or color I'm going to go with that. Okay, so that's pretty basic there. So I'll do that. If your stage is not rectangular like this, you might need to, and maybe you have an extension jutting out from the front, you might need to add more lights going further back this way, and possibly create more truss over here. So that definitely takes a little more work and time to cover all the areas as far as just lighting the stage. All right, so for lighting the room and the scenery and everything like that, I'll start with the backlighting here actually, because that involves the stage as well. So again, this is a little bit too wide. I would actually do it a little bit smaller, but just as an example here, I'm going to show you what it does. So this backlighting here I have definitely creates a much cooler effect on the stage here. We get some color on the stage, as well as we're highlighting the back of the presenters here now, so you get a little more depth with them. It especially looks good if you're recording or doing iMag or anything like that. So that's nice to have that separation as well as some color on the stage. And you can obviously make this white. I like to give a little bit of color to it like I just had here, again, to create some more separation there. So that's that. And then, so uplighting on your scenery and that sort of stuff. Right here, I just have a group of uplights on these scenery panels here. Your scenery is always probably going to be different, so there can be a lot of different scenarios here, but in some way you're trying to spill some light onto your scenery in some way usually, but you want to try to, in a lot of cases, avoid the light hitting in a weird way. So if my lights are too close to the scenery, then obviously you get this sort of look, which isn't good. So you always want to try to get a little bit of distance away from your scenery, from your lighting. So in this case, it looks like about 1.5 feet is like a pretty good position for it to be hitting the whole column here. And then same thing kind of with these lights. I put individual lights hitting between these scenery pieces here. And you might not always do this because you might want it to be dark in between these, but I'm just showing you real quick how this could look. So this is still pretty nice because you have these white columns with some darker blue in between them, so there's a little bit of nice contrast there. So that's kind of what that looks like, and again, I'm creating a little bit of space between them because if I go too far away, it starts to fade. If I go too close, then you get that hot spot. So that good like 1.5 feet or so with uplighting is really usually a good spot to be in. Now I'll show you what it'll look like with some downlighting. If it's ever possible, I always like to downlight onto some scenery or whatever else is being lit. It doesn't always necessarily look good because right now you get this kind of gradient going up. But if you notice in the whole scene right now, there's a lot of light happening just right around this area. So if you want to add some more light to the top so that it's not so busy right here at the bottom, you can try to add some downlighting. So I have these lights up here, which I'll zoom in on, and they're facing downward. Right here, I have them a solid probably 2.5 feet away from the truss here. So this is a situation where I always struggle with because it always looks better having the lights further away from the scenery like this to be able to get a even distribution on them. But you can't always get that, so you might have to have pipe kind of coming out here to hold these up. So it kind of depends on the scenario. In the best scenario, you might have another line of truss up here that you can rig them from, or potentially you're hanging your scenery from something ground supported back here, and then you're able to hang your lights from something else up here. So anyways, this is just an example of what that would look like. If I do have them closer to the truss like this, I might angle them out a little bit and see if I can still get a decent look. So this is actually not too bad. So that's like what that looks like. And then I actually have another group in here where I'm again lighting the drape right there. So pretty much a similar thing. But this is pretty cool now. So now not all of the focus is kind of on the bottom. I think it just looks better overall. Everything's lit up from top to bottom. And so that's what that looks like. And yeah, and then you can go in there and play with color. I've talked about color on other videos before, so I won't talk about it right now. But in general, you could play with these colors as much as you want. And then I think I also added, just to kind of fill the space over here, I added some more lights over here just because, so it's not just kind of these black voids over here, if you will. I might, if I can find these lights down here on the ground, I might just adjust their angle a little bit so that they aren't washing out the whole thing. Cool, so maybe something like that. And honestly, I maybe put some more scenery and stuff back there, but we'll do that at another time. All right, and then finally, so we have some movers here as well that are kind of lighting the room. So this look is pretty cool. I like it, but usually just adding a few movers will, or other lights to kind of light up the rest of the room, will have a big impact on the overall room or the overall design. And hopefully in a lot of cases, it's not that much of an increase, at least in your budget. You could even put the lights on the ground, shooting up towards the ceiling to, shoot light at the ceiling. And usually it's also going to be kind of a larger impact if the light's hitting the ceiling. As you'll see here, I have these two lights hitting the ceiling. And in this situation, let me see here. This cone is probably way too wide here, but if you have a bunch of seating down on the ground, the people sitting here probably aren't going to see a lot of the lighting that's hitting the seating anyways. And I'll show you an example of that in a second. So here's some more lighting that's pointing down. And so if I were to add a bunch of seating in here now, I'll show you kind of what this looks like. I'd also probably bring my lighting down in the room just a tad more. And let's say I have, let's do 80 feet by 50 feet by 8 and 10 or something. Make this a little wider. All right, so we'll say we have this lighting. So you can see that you can see some of the lighting hitting the audience here. But because you're typically probably going to take your rendering and your images from the back of the room, you're often not seeing a lot of that light because it's facing towards the audience, and it's also hitting the audience in the face potentially. So I think that sometimes lighting hitting the ceiling can actually be more effective. And then definitely you can always play around with the your patterns as well, so your gobos and things like that, to potentially get more spread. You know, if you just want kind of an abstract color on your room as opposed to a specific pattern. Play around with that. Cool, so that's a quick example of some lighting there. I'll just remove this for a moment so we can kind of see the difference there. So you can see the lighting a lot better on the ground when the seating is not there. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, I mean, there's plenty of other things that you can light, like scenery, as well as just adding different types of lights in, and kind of, you know, adding lights with logos and accent lights to other things like that as well. But these, I would say, are the kind of the most typical things within your event design that you're going to find. And I would say some good ways of using those specific lights and kind of trying to achieve the sort of distance that you might want from the object that you're lighting, and stuff like that. Hopefully that helps you. If you have any other notes on lighting that you want to bring up, it would be awesome to hear that in the comments of the video. And anything else that you want to know, you can shoot it over the comments or over an email or over our chat on our website. All right, so this has been another video, and I hope to see you next time. And on Fridays, we also do live streams, usually around 10 a.m. Mountain Time, so I hope to see you there as well.